If a couple of years ago anybody would have told me that I was going to spend so much time talking about salty solutions, I would have said they were nuts. But this chloride issue truly is the 800-pound gorilla around Santa Clarita. This is just something that we really have to find a solution for, because the big part of this issue is going to affect every business. It's going to affect the idea of opening new businesses here in Santa Clarita, and what the cost of all of the commodities that we purchase here. It's going to affect us dramatically. So it's important that we stay really alert and don't fall asleep when it comes to this issue. Well, you know, we've been told for a long time that the evil Regional Water Board may come and fine us. And if you remember, when we talked about this before, they talked about these astronomical fines, right? It's going to be so many $1 billion by the time they got done. And we said, that ain't going to happen. But we expected to get fined, and I find it interesting that right now, while the Sanitation District is supposedly in the process of an EIR to determine how to fix the problem, the Regional Water Board came up and said, you know what, guys, you're violating your permit, so we're going to fine you, and we're going to fine you a whole $250,000. And of course, the paper reported this as being, oh my God, it's $250,000. It's a huge number. Well, you know what? That number is small. Do you know what that means to you? Do you know what a $250,000 fine to the Sanitation District means to you? Maybe $4 on a yearly property tax bill for 1 year. That's right. It doesn't mean much from that standpoint. If that was all they were going to do, I would say if that was the yearly fine from now on, I would say pay the fine. Forget it. Pay it every year. But I'm sure that's not what they have in mind. Anyway, the paper, Mr. Holt, who had been doing a whole bunch of studies and supposedly articles on chloride, I was amazed that he wrote this article and then it said, the Sanitation District had to choose between two plans for reducing chloride, and it failed, according to the Regional Water Board, to tell the board in writing which plan it would act on. I never remember them talking about two plans seriously. I remember them talking about the AWORM plan, and I remember them talking about the full-blown reverse osmosis plan. But if you remember, when they came to us, it's now 2 years ago, and wanted to fund one of these programs, the only method that they talked about was the full-blown reverse osmosis system. And in one place they talked about, a $500 million project where we'll build a pipeline to the ocean, and the less expensive $250 million solution where we'll put the brine in deep well injection, using deep well injection. That's the only thing we were talking about. So I don't know where that information came from. I'll give Jim Holt a call. See, maybe he wants to come and talk to us. Anyway, the complainant seeks a total penalty of $280,000 for failure to complete the wastewater facilities plans and programmatic environmental impact reports, which was, I guess, supposedly due in 2011. And sometimes I got to feel that these guys are they've got their finger on the pulse of this thing about as good as some of our other governmental agencies, since our sanitation district didn't start the environmental report until 2012, and it was scheduled for a year. They're just now discovering it didn't start in 2011. This is the end of 2012. They seem to be doing as well. So they say the first plan was called the Alternate Water Resources Management Strategy, and it was the cheaper of the two. Now, I remember being told at the when we've asked about this plan. This is the plan water blending plan, that it was more expensive. That's what our sanitation district kept saying. And I really believe that you've seen it. We've gone through this, I don't know how many times. Every time we ask about an alternative solution, oh, that's just way too expensive, right? So we say things like, well, you know what? Instead of building a $500 million plant, why don't we build a pipeline and just dump all the wastewater in the joint outfall system like all the rest of the LA County sanitation districts do south of here? And they go, oh, too expensive. Really? Why? So these are some of the suggestions that we put in. Supposedly, they are going to answer all of these questions in the EIR, and all of a sudden, miraculously, midway through, the EIR stopped. And it's been on hold now for 5 months. And I have a strange feeling that's why all of a sudden we're getting a fine, is because they're realizing that, that the sanitation district is dragging their feet, and we're realizing the sanitation district is dragging their feet, and there's something they don't want to tell us, and we'll have to see if we can figure out what it was. But anyway, the two options was a full-blown reverse osmosis plant, which I remember McGuinn, that's all he would talk about. You could just say, you know, how's the weather out today? Oh, you need a reverse osmosis plant. That's the only answer he ever had. Okay, both plans call for rate increases, something the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley rejected in the summer of 2010. Now, I'll bet some of us were at that meeting. This was a rate change meeting that took place at City Hall. And Lorraine West asked everybody, well, do you want to just acquiesce and pay the bill, or do you want to fight this, right? And the fighters all raised their hands and said, absolutely, we want to fight this. So, yes, we did not raise the bills at that time. We asked our sanitation board members, two of which are our elected city council members, to fight this, and what have they done in 2 years? How much fighting have you heard about? They sat on their hands for 2 years. And so now we're again raising this issue. Coming out of this report also was the Upper Santa Clara River total maximum daily load for chloride was adopted in 2005. We've heard this before. Updated in 2010 to protect beneficial uses of the Santa Clara River. That, of course, is to protect the beneficial uses of our navigable river, and which includes agriculture, groundwater recharge, rare and endangered species habitats. And our regional water board is certainly decided that we have got to comply with all those items. A gentleman named Unger, who is, I believe, the head of the board, and I'm going to call him and ask him to come down. By the way, you know, we had, 2 years ago, we had the Ventura folks here. Don't know if you guys remember that. We had them here. I still have that video. I'm going to put it online. All right? So by the end of the year, you'll see that video online. You can see what the Ventura folks were talking about. And I understand the idea of the Clean Water Act and the idea that we're supposed to keep rivers from becoming overly polluted, and we're supposed to protect downstream uses, but I don't believe that it was ever intended to allow downstream users to change their use and then decide that the upstream users are going to have to pay for it. So that's part of it. This will protect and restore water quality and preserve the beneficial uses of Santa Clara River as a source of irrigation water for agriculture. It will restore water quality? To what? What was water quality that we damaged? It doesn't make sense. Okay, so what they're telling us was, had the rates been approved, the Regional Water Board would have likely, notice the word, likely extended the interim chloride levels set at 117 milligrams per liter. By the way, could we meet 117 milligrams per liter today? You bet we can. And do we need reverse osmosis to do it? No. So it's very interesting that if you would go spend $500 million that you don't need to spend, they'll let you have a higher standard. But if you don't spend the money, they're going to force you to spend the money by lowering the standard. Totally absurd. With the public's no vote, well, I really say that the public did say that we're at that meeting not to do it. But there was no vote. You know, I didn't remember any election, any official election where everybody got to chime in on this. This was a meeting at City Hall for the Sanitation District. And they were benevolently holding it here in Santa Clarita instead of Whittier, so they can have a few of us there. So it's interesting how this was written, and I think it was written in a very strange way. And here's a great quote. I love this. Santa Clarita City Councilwoman Lorraine West, one of the 3 members who sit on the local sanitation board. Those 3 members are Frank Ferry, because he is the mayor, Lorraine West, and Marcia McLean right now is the alternate, or it's the other way around. Marcia McLean is the alternate, I believe. And in about 2 weeks, they're going to name the new mayor. All right? So it's not going to be Frank. Well, I don't think it's going to be Frank. Can you be mayor 2 years in a row? I guess you could. But it's probably not going to be Frank. And we're going to have to see who the other 2 folks are. But anyway, who said the local sanitation officials are on track to forward that goal. I haven't figured out what that goal is. Maybe if you want to read the whole article, it's right here. I don't know what goal she's talking about. Maybe it was the goal. Remember, how long ago was it when they were telling us there was no project? Remember that? There was no project. We had her on tape doing it. And then the next week, well, we actually are planning a project. So here's we're worried about $280,000. Remember that our sanitation district has spent $330,000 on a survey that they never released. Okay? And now they're spending another $220,000 with the same company to continue outreach through the end of March. And they borrowed $23 million for the facilities plan. Wow. Well, you know what? I did public records request and said, I want the survey. And guess what? I got it. So we'll look at it. We'll see what was said. Now, as far as the Regional Water Board is concerned, we have a way to comment right now. And if we had a standard of 117 milligrams per liter, and if we, as a sanitation district, were as interested in solving this problem as they expected you to be by removing your water softeners, we could probably meet that 117 milligrams per liter easily. Because while they said to you, oh yeah, guys, you have to remove your water softeners because you're adding chloride to the water, they continue to use chlorine to disinfect it. So if we simply went to UV disinfection and stopped adding chlorine in the water, I believe we're under 117 milligrams per liter. Or we'll have to continue to see. But anyway, there's an opportunity to comment to the water board. Tell them how wonderful you think a job that they are doing for us here in Santa Clarita. So I went on the Sanitation District's website this month. I was about to call in, like I do every month, and said, when are you going to be done? And expect to hear them say, well, we'll let you know in another month or two. But this time I decided to go on their website first and found out they actually updated it. This was updated on the 10th of October. And I thought it was very interesting because it tells you what they're thinking. They're telling us. They're setting us up for this fall, and they're telling us what they're doing. We anticipate the environmental impact report will evaluate several options. Okay, that's great. And let's see a list. How many of those options are there, right? Those options include replacing chloride-containing chemicals with ultraviolet light to destroy harmful microorganisms. In other words, we're going to stop using chlorine to disinfect water and go to UV. Building a reverse osmosis unit that uses high pressure and high-tech filters to remove chloride, and building that appropriate systems that appropriately dispose of the resulting brine. That is the $500 million solution. What other options are we talking? Aren't there other options? Whatever options are evaluated, no decisions have been made. You believe that? I mean, every time we say, how about option 3? Well, there's always a reverse osmosis plant. And, whatever options are evaluated, no decisions have been made until the entire environmental review process, including public review, is completed. And for some reason, they're dragging their feet. Now, they're saying on their website that the draft EIR and draft facilities plan, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute now. If they haven't made a decision, and the EIR isn't complete, how can they make a draft facilities plan? Think they might be making one for every option available? Or maybe only one option? Okay? Is underway, and documents are scheduled for release early in 2013. Well, I can't wait for those guys to come back again. I know they watch these videos. We're waiting for you now. Okay. It doesn't seem like you've been telling us a really straight story. Multiple public meetings will be held in Santa Clarita following the release of the draft EIR, and a 60-day comment period will be provided for additional opportunity for public input. And I'm thoroughly convinced they're going to get it. So what's the status of the EIR? Right now, it's 5 months behind schedule. It was supposed to be released in June. Well, let me check. Anybody got a calendar? It's December. And you know what? Every time we've asked, they said, well, it's because we want to go study these options, these extra options. Well, you know what? Where are they? What option? And I'm believing that this could be in part because of the survey results. I think partly they're dragging their feet because they know what the community thinks. And they're not letting anybody else know. Now, let me see now. Here are the surveys. And so we're going to talk about them a little bit. I keep doing that. I don't know why. Wrong button. All right. These surveys are done by our friends, and we've had presentations about these people. Public opinion strategies. You know who they are. They're not just people interested in what you think. This off of their own website, this is what they say about themselves. Public opinion strategies provide services that go into the trenches with their clients to aggressively help them promote their interests. And you are not their client. Their client is the Sanitation Board. Okay? To get value from any survey, you need to investigate who did it, who answered the questions, and who paid for it. And then you can see what the data actually shows. Now, first of all, as all of their surveys start, they start by telling you who they surveyed. If you remember when we talked about the city surveys, we asked them, well, how do you know that you have a representative sample across the city? How do you know that when you call? And they said, well, what we do is we set up the survey to make calls around the city based upon the populations, so that we try to get a representative sample of who is there. Well, take a look at who they surveyed this time. 25% said they're in the city of Santa Clarita. 22% said they're in Valencia. 7% said they're in Stevenson Ranch. Gosh, 54% were on the west side of the valley. Okay? That doesn't look to me like a representative sample across the valley. And I got to thinking about why that might be. And I thought it might be because typically the west side has probably higher property tax bills than we do on the east side on the average. And maybe these numbers wouldn't sound as big to them as they sound to us. But I also noticed that the only people they contacted were homeowners. So it doesn't seem like a representative sample at all. And that's what they say. That's their information, not mine. So here's some of the questions. You'll love these. If we were to propose an increase in the water improvement fee, notice what this is called, a water improvement fee, for construction of a treatment plant to remove chloride from the community's wastewater, would you favor that or oppose it? And 57% opposed it and 38% favored it. So that didn't sound good to them. Hey, how about if we were to propose an increase in a sewer service charge for the construction of a treatment plant? You know, that's really great. And we'll call it a different name and see if you will pay for that one, right? If you don't want to pay for water quality, will you pay for a sewer service charge? Well, they got about the same answer, as 54% of people said no. And I noticed that not only less people opposed it, but less people favored it. It sounded like they were getting tired. If you look at this, this was an interesting survey because the group of people that they surveyed, you're going to see in some of these answers that when they ask them the same question a different way, people get mad, and the numbers go even more negative. Right. So how about this one? When you pay an additional $215 a year will you pay an additional $250 a year for a total additional cost of $430? And 79% of people said, no way. Well, you know, I feel like I'm on that show, Pawn Stars. Pawn Stars. Pawn Stars, right? And so, would you buy this for this amount? And people go, oh no. So let's change the number. How about when you buy this for an additional $150 per year for a total cost of $365, and the number went up. So they reduced the number, and the number went up. People are saying, oh, come on, you guys, what are you doing? You know, this is just, well, how about $100? If it's $100, I mean, surely it'll only cost you an additional $315, and then still 84% opposed. So then they try to see if you can multiply. I love it when they do that. So how about an additional $20 per month for only an additional total monthly cost of $38? Well, you know, they probably were calling a whole bunch of engineers' houses, and they immediately could multiply that. They went, no, I ain't going to do that. So if you're not going to pay $20, how about $15, you know? And 90% opposed it. I thought that was amazing. They reduced the number, and the number went up. People just are realizing what they're doing. And then even when they went down to $9, they still couldn't get a positive answer. So remember, we're talking about public opinion strategies. And so this is a survey. And typically, to me, a survey should be something that gives you information or asks you a question, a complete question, and then wants to know what you think. But look at how this is worded. This is the question. Now I would like to read you a few statements about the specific detail of the proposed new Santa Clarita Valley Sanitation District wastewater treatment facilities, which could be constructed to improve water quality. The Water Quality Improvement Program will allow businesses to relocate within the Santa Clarita Valley without paying a new sewer connection fee. Really? When has anybody ever said that? You know, in all the things that they've ever said, I've never heard anybody say that. I mean, is this just pandering to try to get people to say yes to vote? This is pathetic. Homeowners who use less than the average amount of water and put less water into the sewer system will be able to lower their costs by receiving reduced rates for sewer services. Really? And how do you believe they're going to make that happen?
They won't. In the winter, when we use less water, they raise our rates.
So it's. I think this is really shameful, and I would be embarrassed if these guys were doing this survey for me. Here's some more questionable questions. The proposal requires that all money spent on the program will be subject to full public review and an annual independent audit. Do you know of any project that's done by our sanitation district where they give us a full public review of how they spent the money? Do you know how it was like pulling teeth to get them to talk about what they were going to use the rate increases for and why they needed rate increases? I'd love to see a full public review of how they spend their money. But I don't think that's true. And I never saw anything in a proposal that said that was going to happen. The community should support the Water Quality Improvement Program because this program will support expanded recycled water use within the Santa Clarita Valley.
Not true, only the west side.
Yep, just the west side.
Actually, the only place where there will be expanded recycled water use within Santa Clarita Valley, if only a water treatment plant is built, will be for Newhall Ranch. Because that is part of the Newhall Ranch plan. To use the water that we pay for and to supplement their recycled water program. And that's one of the reasons when we talked about this before. If we just build a reverse osmosis plant and then take and dump the water into the river, we spend $500 million. Well, wait a minute. I forgot. Oh, gosh, joy and happiness. That's $500 million to build a plant. You got to operate it too, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so if we do that, they take this amount of water, we spend the money to clean, so that south of us, the farmers can reap the benefit, and north of us, Newhall land can reap the benefit. That doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right to me at all. Property owners should support this project because it is a very small amount to pay. Yeah, what's $1,000 a year? Well, pocket change, right? I think it's going to be interesting because, you know, especially in some seniors, that's a big chunk of change that they're going to be hit with. And when they talk about a small amount, it's even with a cost increase. Sewage bills in Santa Clarita Valley will still be no more than most homeowners pay throughout the rest of Southern California. You know what? I don't care. That's not the point. We don't set the price of utilities by what everybody else pays. We set the price of utilities by what it costs. Okay? And we shouldn't be satisfied with somebody raising the cost just because someone else down the road is paying it. That's an absurd statement.